Welcome to GouldFish on Games, and as it's the season of best of lists, retrospectives and awards, I figured it'd be fun to try and mash them all together to create my own type of video for the year, because 2018 has been a surprisingly busy year for me. I've ended up changing job, I've moved, I've found more time to produce videos, I created 28 videos, and I'm hoping this is just the start, as next year I plan to do far more, which will probably mean I end up spending even more money on more games and hardware. But, it's a hard life, I guess. And so let's start off with a list, and that has to be those retro games that I finally got around to playing for the first time this year. And at number 3 was Clockwork Knight. Before this year, I'd really only given this game a quick odd go here and there, but I decided to give it a proper playthrough. And boy did I enjoy it, so much that I even made a video about it, and it was my first Saturn video. It has a really nice look to it, some really cool ideas, though it is for the most part a straightforward platformer. At number 2, it was Shantae. I've always been a fan of Metroid style games, but this one had passed me by due to it being a Game Boy Color only release. But after hearing about it and finding out it was on the 3DS Virtual Console, I decided to give it a go, and I'm glad that I did. It's a wonderful title with some great artwork, especially for being a Game Boy Color game, although I do have to admit, I found it quite hard to remember all the dances, but apart from that, it's a great game and everyone should give it a go. And at number 1, it was Turok 2. Okay, I cheated a little here, as I played the HD release that came out a few years ago, but as they didn't remaster the whole game, I'm going to allow it. But the game itself is a fun shooter with some creative weapons and an interesting progression system. Some of the levels near the end can get a little maze-like and gets quite confusing with the same texture being used everywhere, but overall the game is a joy to play and I think everyone should give it a go. And with our first list over and done with, it's time to take a look at some awards. And the first one is Best Retro Purchase of the Year award. Now I did buy quite a few machines, and I was very tempted to give it to the Macintyre 486, because it did make for some great videos. But I decided to give it to something else that hadn't been shown on this channel yet, and that was these two machines. The ZX Spectrum Plus and the Amstrad CPC 464. The main reason I picked both of these machines is that they actually came in the same bundle of broken hardware, and thankfully I managed to fix up both of them. I really did get myself a real bargain here. It probably would have been a good idea to record the restoration, but as it turned out to be quite simple to fix up and get running, it wouldn't have made for much of a video anyway. It was mostly a case of fixing a few broken parts. I'm sure we'll see both those machines in videos next year, but for anyone stood up, you better sit down, because right now is going to be the most surprising addition to my collection award, and that machine goes to the PS2. Now, I will admit, I've never been a fan of Sony or the PlayStation, and I think their controller is a war crime against hands. Yeah, I've said it. I'm sure you'll leave me a comment in the comments telling me I'm wrong, but go ahead, you're not going to change my mind. But the machine itself did have quite a lot of exclusives and quite a range of light gun games, and so when I saw it go for free, I had to pick it up. And yeah, I played a few games, they were bad. It's not going to convert me anytime soon, but I will pick up more games for it when I see them and when I think they're worth playing. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get a lot of angry comments. And before we get on to our big award of the day, let's take a look at the Most Played Game of the Year award. And that has to go to a game that came out actually a couple of years ago, but I'm still playing it now. And that game was Transport Fever. Now the game has been out for a couple of years, but it has received a number of patches in that time, including one that's just come out, so I feel it's right to be in this list still. As a fan of Transport Tycoon and Locomotion, this really helped scratch that itch nicely. It's not perfect, and some bits get downright fiddly to do, but when you get into it, it's such a great game to play. When you just get into that lovely groove of laying down tracks, connecting towns together, it's zen-like. And I'm massively looking forward to seeing what this team releases next year, as I feel that they got quite a good engine and they're starting to really get the hang of these type of games. I'm sure I'm going to put in lots of hours into whatever they come out with next. Now I have to give a passing mention to both Kerbal Space Program and Settlers History Edition, as I put lots of time into both of those. Now I am cheating a bit because Settlers History Edition does have 7 games in it, but so far I've only played Settlers 3 and 4 in it, which I've completed Settlers 3. Now you'll probably see this coming up again in the new year. GouldFish on Games is proudly sponsored by nobody. And welcome back to GouldFish on Games. And right now we have the most serious and sought after award of all time. It's the machine that most deserved having a crowbar taken to it award. And right now the nominees are the Amiga 600, because it burst into flames the first time it was used in years. The Atari ST, because the video port decided that it just was not going to play ball no matter what I did. Following it is the Pentium 3. This machine decided that it was going to spend more time crashing and hanging than being useful. And in the final position is a printer. Because, do I even need a reason? And, drumroll please, the winner is the Pentium 3! Not only did this machine manage to fry 2 motherboards due to non-standard power connectors, it also managed to screw up a sound card. To such an extent it managed to make the machine so unstable it would rarely boot. And after spending way too much time and cash on it, I now have a nicely running machine. Though the final indignity is the fact that I have to run Windows ME, as it plays best with the graphics card that's currently inside it. I'm sure this will come back to bite me at some point. And how can we have a video with lists unless I have a top 5 games of the year? And remember, if you disagree with these, leave me a comment, because remember, comments lead to traffic, and that's all that's important when it comes to YouTube. So at number 5 we have Far Cry 5. Funny how that works out. Now I hadn't played any of the Far Cry games since the second, so I wasn't massively looking forward to this game, but I heard good things so I gave it a go. And it was actually a lot of fun. Though the way they forced the story on you was quite weak, I thought. They could have done that better. But it had an interesting map, some fun gameplay, and I guess in the end that's all that matters. And at number 4 we have Golf Story. Now this one surprised me, as I've never been a fan of sports games. The combination of a quirky story, RPG elements, and a surprisingly well done golfing element came together to make a really fun game. And if you've not tried it out, you really should. And at number 3 we have Anno 2205. This is the first Anno game I've actually got around to completing, and I really enjoyed the global nature of the game. The combat probably could have been more integrated into the game, or could have had at least a few more different types of missions, as the 3 they've got just got a little repetitive by the end of it. But as a whole, the game was lots of fun, and the way you had to send resources between the different regions really made for an interesting game. At number 2 we have Outcast Second Contact. Okay, a bit of a cheat here. The game came out a couple of years ago and it's a remaster of an even older game, but I finally got around to actually playing and completing it this year, and it's really good fun. Yeah, it's rough around the edges, mostly because of bringing over its older animations, but the game itself looks lovely and actually feels quite fresh with its gameplay, as it was the forerunner for quite a lot of the open world titles we see today. And at number 1, probably the first game I bought of the year, Mario Odyssey. Yeah, it's a Mario game, but damn, it really did give me that sense of fun and freedom that I got from Mario 64 back in the day. And to be honest, that should really be enough for anyone. It helps that it actually has a Mario 64 skin for your main character, which really is the icing on the top of a very weird but wonderful wedding cake. And with all the silly lists and awards out the way, it's time to do the retrospective, and I decided that what else could I do it on but Mega Atoms, the Mega Drive game that I started only 6 months ago and had such a great response to. And here are some quick stats about the game. In its raw form, it's 3 megabytes in size, and when compiled down is reduced to just 512 kilobytes. The graphics are spread over 51 bitmaps, and the code is made up of 35 files and over 4,000 lines, and takes about a minute and a quarter to compile. And with that, 2018 is done. That's right, I'm large and in charge and I'm calling it done. Next year you can expect lots of great new content, and hopefully you're going to see both more and less of me at the same time. So until next time, I've been the GouldFish. That was a very silly video that really didn't need to happen, but you watched it anyway. And this was GouldFish on Games. Bye.